As soon as I said, CSU is looking for a president, they all said, Tony is fabulous, and the two of you would be so good together. We're gonna nominate you for CSU. I was very lucky to grow up right outside of Washington, D.C., in Rockville, Maryland. We grew up in a relatively small home. I was really, really lucky to be raised by the parents who raised me because they had a very high tolerance for chaos. I have absolutely wonderful siblings. There are 4 of us total. I'm the eldest. We were very, very loved, and we knew it. One of the greatest privileges of living in a place like Washington, D.C., other than being able to go to the museums, was the Washington Post. To grow up with the Washington Post as your hometown newspaper is really extraordinary. Why I thought that I would be a lawyer, I don't know, but I do think it actually had to do with the Washington Post. I think reading a lot about Watergate and the Watergate investigation was reading about a lot of lawyers. And I thought, well, these lawyers are doing really important work, and I'd like to do what they're doing. I really wanted a different kind of college experience. Evergreen State College had a non-traditional program, but it was also public, so it was affordable. It was just a beautiful, quiet environment. My commitment to conservation, I think, all really started then. When I was a professor, I would get up every day and think, I'm the most fortunate person in the world. They actually pay me to think and then to tell people what I think. That's like awesome.
I always tell people that good leaders can do it with grace and kindness. And one thing about Joyce, she's a very strong woman, a woman who lives in a bubble of optimism, but is very driven and focused on what she wants something to look like, and she gets there.
She is remarkable in capacity and in creativity. 2 words that really describe her, and the other one is compassion. She's a very compassionate person, much more so than me.
She is very strategic. I've known that from the beginning. She thinks carefully about how things work, when it's time to make change, how to make change, and bringing people on board.
She understands when to fight, and she understands when to strategically advance or retreat.
She is a visionary, and she has a deep sense of mission, and she's very good at building consensus and growing an institution.
When you think about Joyce, she does things in a way that's gracious, that's kind, but is very driven.
My dad is a social worker, my mom is a nurse. So concepts of social justice were very important growing up. But both of my parents were also in the military. And so this idea that you can really believe in social justice and believe that you're going to be a part of making things better is not disconnected then from being a patriot and serving your country.
When you think about diversity and you think about inclusion, equity, equality, that's Joyce.
She was the professor at the law school who, when she discovered that our LGBTQ students 20 years ago didn't feel safe enough to meet on our campus in a group, she invited them into her home.
I've never seen anyone with quite the talent that Joyce has for reaching every single person that she talks to and making them feel like they're a part of the conversation, that they're important to the work that we have going on.
So I reached out to her, and she wrote me right back and said, oh, I would love to meet you. Let's go have lunch. And we went to lunch, and I was just so amazed and impressed by her from the start.
That type of personality and commitment to just, interacting with us and interacting with students is something that's, I think, going to carry her, light years ahead of any other president. So it's really exciting.
I became the dean in July 2008. The market tanked 90 days later. Enrollments in law schools fell off the cliff.
If you look at her record, as a dean of the law school, she changed how many people attended, how many women attended. She changed our rank. She changed how many people passed the bar, and that's all through her leadership.
She took the law school from a very good school that was in a rather old building and transformed us into a school with lots of different centers, more clinics, and brand new renovated space.
It was a major design effort, but it is so beautiful now. So proud of it.
So I needed to have a provost. I called up Joyce and I said, Joyce, you need to become the provost of the university. And she said, well, I don't want to be the provost. And I said, well, yes, you do.
When I became the provost, the thing that I really had to think about was, what is it like for that 17 and 18-year-old to go away to college? And what is it like for the parent to send that student off to college? CSU seemed to me the most like West Virginia University in its sense of purpose, in its sense of scale, in the way in which its alum and supporters are so dedicated. CSU has an excellent reputation across the country, particularly among land-grant universities.
Land-grant Joyce. Land-grant Joyce. I mean, there are very few people who have a more religious devotion to the land-grant mission than Joyce.
When I think about a boss, I think about a leader. It's not by gender. She's going to be excellent at her job. And while she is making history, she's making history because she has the stamina, she has the intelligence, she has the wherewithal to knock it out the park. And so we know she's going to be great at Colorado State.